watch Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock Podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, Andy likes to yell and curse, and if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. Spend the whole time being jerks, telling you you're wrong, and so we got this other jerk to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast.
Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. This week we are talking episode 2 of Survivor 45, and just like Brandon was an abject failure last week, so too was Andy, and I decided to get rid of him. Instead, he's been replaced with Brad. And Brad, welcome to your first podcast of season 45.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I excited to be here. I am not jealous of Andy's fate. As punishment, he was sent to Florida, which just sounds awful. And I'd much rather be here with you.
Can you imagine being stuck in Florida? Ugh, what a hell. Thoughts and prayers to him and his family.
And that was the thing. He was so bad last week that we didn't just send Andy. We had to send his kids with him. Like, his kids are being punished by being sent to Florida.
Right. Just for being associated with him. They deserve the punishment as well. All right. So what did you think of the episode this week?
I liked it for the most part. I will also say that I also liked the premiere, and I know a lot of people were very down on the premiere. I agree and hear what everyone's saying about how the cast kind of sucks so far, and maybe they'll grow into it. But I thought it was just nice to have Survivor back for whatever that's worth. For me, we've talked about this in the past, but for me, if you just give me baseline Survivor, I'm pretty much satisfied with that. I didn't find this to be super overwhelmingly good, super overwhelmingly bad. There's a little bit, I think, that the 90 minutes is playing into it, and that makes me like this season maybe a little bit more. But for the overall, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, I was less down on the first episode than Andy was, for sure, just because my take was more like, okay, they definitely weren't good Survivor players. It wasn't an amazing episode, but at least I didn't constantly look and see what time it is throughout the episode. I was engaged in watching. Whereas, there's definitely been times in other seasons where I've been like, oh God, when is this over? This week, premieres being 90 minutes, not a big shocking thing. That happens all the time. 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever. This is our first regular episode going 90 minutes, and you still felt like it kept you entertained the whole time?
Yeah, I think it did. And I feel like I agree with you that the premiere being 90 minutes, it felt like a pretty standard premiere. And I feel like this is the episode where you really got to feel oh, this is a different sort of narrative, a different sort of edit, because we were given so many character moments. I think I saw someone on Twitter say that pretty much everyone got a confessional. Not that we're confessional counters, right? But that is a bit of a narrative change from other seasons. So I think that's the sort of thing that I think is going to pop a little bit more. I don't know that we got too much pre-tribal strategy talk, but at the same time, how much could you really do with the tribe that went to a tribal council, and how much could you even do anyway when you're in the pre-merge portion of the game? Right. I think once we get to the post-merge, that's where this time is really going to shine. But for the most part, I'm enjoying it.
I mean, not only was it the pre-merge, it was also the same tribe that had lost last week. So we didn't need a whole lot of development to the strategies taking place within that tribe. It was pretty clear how things shook out the first week, what we could probably expect this week. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of need to delve into that. I did not realize this idea that everyone got a confessional. I have come out on the side before of being I do not need egalitarian Survivor. I don't need confessionals spread around everybody. Some people will make great TV. They can have more airtime. To me, that is fine. It's earlier in the season. I didn't feel like it, dragged the episode down in any way. I do think if it kept up doing that for the rest of the season and someone's actually more entertaining, I'm going to be annoyed. That said, I haven't yet found that person that I'm I want to see more of them. So I I'm good with spreading it around for now.
I agree with that, but I will say I think there is someone who got a lot of confessionals and airtime last night who I could see less of. I feel like there was a lot of focus on Emily, which I guess makes sense because you're setting up a narrative for her and Brandon and why the tribe is voting in that direction. But I feel like I could have done with a little bit less Emily, perhaps.
I I get that only because she grates. However, it was at least central to the story, right? She's not like, oh, we ate hamburgers today. She was talking about like the change that she'd had from 2 days ago to now, and like the conversations with Caleb and how that had affected her and those sorts of things. Although, really, is her personality going to switch on a dime? Like, nah. He gave her some tips. Hopefully she's utilizing them. But at a certain point, that original Emily is going to come back out.
Yeah, but I will say to her credit, I do think like her whole narrative on this episode was giving very Spencer and Cambodia vibes. But I will say to her credit, I feel like she did turn it around a lot quicker. I feel like Spencer kept ramming through with his same sort of shtick, versus Emily, either for personal reasons or strictly on a strategic gameplay level of realizing that she is screwed if she doesn't sort of act different, is at least trying to improve, build connections, and like grow.
So you didn't share our pessimism quite on the same level about this cast in that first week?
Oh no. If we're talking about the cast overall, I still think it's not a great cast. I agree with the overall vibe, which is something I actually feel like is being echoed in a lot of spaces, is that the cast this season is not that great. There's too many super fans, too many people, I think, as Andy said, who are excited just to be there, and you need people to act like they've been there before. And just on a personal note, I kind of feel like we could use a little more beefcake on the cast. I feel like I'm only getting Austin. I feel like I'm not getting as much as I need to enjoy the show as much as I want to. Things like that.
People have a variety of tastes. There might be something for others here.
Yeah.
There was certainly something for the foot fetishists this week.
Oh man. Do we want to jump straight to that? I know.
Let's do a quick diversion.
Let's do a quick diversion on that. The moment she said, like, oh, I was made fun of for my feet, you could tell immediately where we're pivoting to. And I'm just like, girl, think about it. Think about it for 10 seconds as to whether you want to put your feet on camera, on national television. Think about we all know that what happens on the internet. Like, come on, think a little bit before you jump into that.
Right. I mean, you're introducing the subject. They probably, if you never brought it up or no one ever brought it up, probably doesn't make it on the TV screens. But you walked right into this trap. I hope you're not on social media.
The other thing too, though, is like, even if you were never on social media and even if you weren't being filmed, I don't feel like that's a thing I get to on what would that be, day 4? Like, even though you spend right, like all of your time with these people, you're trying to get to know them. I don't feel like I've run out of topics to talk about with these strangers who I've never met before. That on day 4, I'm like, I was made fun of my feet. Look at my big toe. I don't think that's where I get to on day 4.
So you're not generally a person that's like, oh, what do you do for a living? Hey, by the way, check out my toe. That's not your opener in a conversation?
Not an opener. I think we get around to that maybe around day 12. I'm just saying.
Got it.
Seems a little early.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a little too soon. That's all.
Yeah.
As far as the cast, like, okay, I would say for me, a few people vaulted all the way up to like acceptable this week. That's all I'm going to give them, though. Like, I'm, again, not super excited to see anybody. And then some people that got fleshed out a little bit more, I'm even less enthused about now. But we'll go into them later. Let's instead stick with the group that once again went to tribal council this week in a not at all surprising development. Did you feel like booting Brandon over Emily was the right choice?
I absolutely feel like it's the right choice, and strictly from just a gameplay sort of reason of, that you're going to have to compete in these challenges. That at this point, there's nowhere to hide Brandon if you keep him, right? Like, you're never going to be able to sit him out until you start winning, not just 1, but 2 challenges at this point, right? Like, I really don't see a pathway to winning when you have to put him on the course and that he is both a physical liability, and at this point proven to be a puzzle liability. Like the one thing that you thought you might be able to plug and play with him on, he's not able to perform and compete with. So if you know that you're pretty much guaranteed to lose every time you put him out on the course, and there's no way to get him off the course, I really don't see any rationale for keeping him, because if you are looking at him as a post-merge asset, you're not going to make the post-merge.
Right. And that's ultimately why I agree with the decision, just because, sure, you can say, yeah, Emily is a nightmare and you don't necessarily, she's not going to be loyal to you. She will stick around if you happen to keep winning, and maybe she will get slightly closer to you, but she's not going to forget that she's felt so ostracized like this, right? However, that you're looking way too long term if that's your thinking. Brandon, as you were saying, just spectacularly bad at everything, like to a degree where I was like, man, you're really bad at this. Like, why would you even tell people you're good at puzzles? Are you good like at a singular puzzle, like one puzzle, and they just heard you incorrectly? Because what is his strength? Like, he was genuinely terrible at the puzzle, whereas like people, on average would just be mediocre at a puzzle. Like, they'd be okay. Like, he was actively bad, as in, did you even do jigsaw puzzles as a kid growing up? Like, you're putting pieces upside down. What is wrong with you? He's claiming like, oh, my asset to this tribe, I'll be good at the puzzles. Like, where'd that come from? Just own that you suck. Just say, guys, I'm so sorry. I am good at nothing. I hope you can carry me.
And that's one of the things where I wonder if his puzzle strength was something that he actually maybe is good at, just not in this particular context, right? Like, maybe at home by himself on the couch, he is a puzzle whiz. He's like all about that sort of puzzle life. But when you get out on the island, when this was such a big deal for him, right? It was basically his live stream for however long, and just sort of the ramp up of expectations contributed to that performance anxiety that deteriorated his ability to actually compete well, potentially.
Sure. That is entirely possible. Another possibility is he sucks at this. He really overestimated his
let's not rule it out. I'm just trying to throw him a bone and try to give him credit for something. No, let's not rule out that he is actually bad at it.
Right. Yeah, I wonder, because I think I mentioned last week that a lot of times when they're casting players for this show, one of their chief attributes is that they are lacking in self-awareness. They are very self-absorbed and lack self-awareness. It's entirely possible he doesn't have the self-awareness to realize he would be terrible at this. Like, some people you should know before you go out there, you'd be really bad at this. Like, I can look at a basketball court and say, you know what? I'm not going to do well. I'm going to sit this one out. Right? Like, if you invited me to, like, I'm sitting courtside and Steph Curry's like, hey, you want to come out here and shoot? Nope, actually, I don't. I want to watch you do it because you're good at it and I'm bad at it. Thanks, but no thanks. Whereas he might have just been like, yeah, I'm good. I can handle this. Just an irrational level of confidence.
Well, okay. Two things on that is, one, I would say, I think you should give yourself more credit. I think you could beat a cardboard cutout in a 3-on-3. I think that at least give yourself a little credit there. Remains to be seen. We haven't tested it yet. The other thing I will say is, I think that also ties back to, though, of like, it felt like Brandon didn't do any prep at all. And that's like, for a Survivor superfan to that level, to get cast and then not do any preparation at all, it just feels a little off. And maybe he was only prepping on puzzles and not all the other stuff. But I feel like the survival aspect, the physical component of the challenges, like, there were so many things that just also felt lacking. And not that everyone goes out and is immediately a challenge beast or like a, wilderness survival expert, but he just felt so out of his element in so many different domains. It really was sort of surprising and made me think, like, oh, did you just get cast and just stay hyped for however many weeks you had before you went out there? Or did you actually do anything to prep? Right.
And I mean, we've seen super fans of this show before. Not that they've necessarily performed well. I'm not trying to give these people credit. However, those previous super fans, didn't perform quite this poorly, right? And to Brandon's credit, I did see someone shared something he put on social media where, like, he does have a good sense of humor about it, which he should. Like, it's, you went on TV, did something you're not good at, the end. That's it. That's all. You could be a perfectly lovely person. But wow, genuinely bad.
And look, if he manages to spin this into Zach Wurtenberger on Twitter levels of notoriety, you know what? Good for him. That's something out of nothing.
Oh man, I mean, he could. Doesn't Zach have like a sibling doing Big Brother or something?
He does have a sibling doing Big
Wow.
Brother, who's still in the game, by the way.
Wow, I would never know that or want to know that. So thanks for inflicting that upon my brain.
Absolutely.
Anyway, yeah. So getting back to the Emily over Brandon thing, I think it got set up pretty well. We got to see some insight into how they were thinking. As if we'd just gone to the vote and then they flipped it to Brandon, or we just saw them voting out Brandon. We might be like, really, Emily's a disaster. Why are you keeping her? Or I think there was at least enough there where you could be like, yeah, they don't like her. However, again, it's you've got two bad choices, which is the less bad choice, and that less bad choice was clearly Emily. So that said, looking forward, is this tribe still a mess, or is this going to turn around next week, do you think?
Oh, no, it's not going to turn around. They are a mess. Right. They will remain a mess. I mean, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that they win one challenge, but I mean, even though Brandon was clearly the weakest link in the chain, I don't think it's that strong of a chain outside of him anyway. So if they manage to win two challenges, I will really be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they're still kind of a joke. Like, I think what's weird, though, is, I mentioned this last week. We did not watch the cast previews or anything like that because we tend to not want to have our opinions like biased going into the first episode. Also, we're lazy. But everyone who watched the cast previews assumed that this tribe would be an absolute disaster, and they absolutely have been. So I'm wondering, like, did production not get this vibe, or was this a thing they did get the vibe and they're like, yeah, we don't care. We are down to watch a disaster in the making.
I err on the side of they didn't get the vibe, but mostly because I compare that to the complaints that we all have about the cast as a whole, right? They didn't really pick up the vibe that they had an imbalanced cast overall. So I wouldn't really trust them to pick up the sense as to whether the tribes are balanced as well. You know what I mean? Like, if everybody is just there for their enthusiasm and their super fandom, and you're just sort of going off of rough gender ratios and rough archetypes, I think it's easy to see how they would overlook tribe composition and not realize that this tribe is not going to perform well and not going to gel well.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Like, if everyone you're casting is kind of a weirdo, then like, is one group of six necessarily going to stick out more than the other? I think in this case, there was, probably signs. In fairness to them, I don't know that you would necessarily know that Hannah would be quite such a disaster that first week and so actively against continuing to play. Like, she didn't seem completely physically incompetent. This could have gone a different way. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just, sure, Brandon was bad at things, but, you look at Drew and you think like, maybe that guy could be bad at things. Maybe Brando's also bad at things. Who knows? I don't know. After watching that first episode, I was fairly convinced they were going to lose the challenge this week. And I didn't see a way they could possibly win. At least next week, having cut Brandon loose, I guess there's a possibility, right? It's a non-zero chance now.
Right. And I also wonder how it will affect things with the new Claire rule that you can't sit people out in back-to-back challenges, which I actually think the Red Tribe, I think, was trying to gain that ahead of time by sitting Sifu. Because typically, if you look at a tribe like that, Sifu is someone who you're going to run in every challenge. But by sitting him out in this one, I feel like it was both sort of a shot at Lulu to be like, we know that you're going to lose this anyway, and we can set out one of our stronger players. And also gearing up for next week when they sort of cut Brandon out of their tribe and they actually really need Sifu on the course because Lulu's going to be coming at a higher relative strength. Because that is the other thing, too. If you can't sit out people in back-to-back challenges, but you keep having to sit out more and more people because Lulu keeps losing, right? And the actual like roster size for each tribe gets smaller and smaller for each challenge. I think there actually is more strategy in terms of who you're sitting out, because you can't just keep alternating between one person every time,
Exactly.
or two people every time.
Right. I think we might get that theory tested, because it would not be a shock to see Lulu down to 3 players. There's also, you mentioned the sit out changes. There's some other changes going on. We did see this week the changes to the idle process on 2 different tribes, really. But we'll focus on Lulu because we're still talking about them. They're still a disaster. Were you a fan of the changes to the idle process now?
I do like it, just because I feel like it is a nice change of pace. It is more entertaining, and it is not changing up something just for the sake of change, which Survivor, of course, has done many times to the nth degree over the past few seasons, to the point that is actually, I think, detracting from the game. Case in point, like taking away their Bryce and their Flint, which, like, I get that Jeff wants it to be harder, but I really don't think that serves the entertainment purpose of the show in any way, shape, or form. But for this, I think it is maintaining the integrity of the gameplay. I think it is enhancing the entertainment factor that we get out of it. Really, just, I don't really have any complaints about this. I really enjoy this change, especially because, like, the moment when they open up, when Sabaya opens up the wrapping and reads the card and says, your idol is in this wax, burn away the wax to get your idol, and they have no flint or fire. I mean, come on, that's a pretty rich moment.
It was. I mean, you know what? And that wasn't even probably the best editing moment of the show, like, because that was a good womp womp moment. But not to skip to the part about the advantage, but they're all going along the beach to potentially get an advantage, the 3 that go out there, and Brandon's talking about, everything's coming up, Brandon. I'm looking up, things are looking up now, and then boom, immediately falls on his face. Like, well done. Just beautiful editing. The show is good at what it does. And the Sabia thing was also very funny.
Well, that wasn't my favorite Brandon moment of that whole sort of sequence. My favorite Brandon moment of that sequence was when they get a shot of Sabia standing on his back with the soundbite, "I have scoliosis, please be careful."
Yes, don't dance around up there.
Yeah.
It was good stuff. There were some laughs. I don't necessarily just want idols to be a find the little hidden thing and you're done. Is this going too far? I don't think so. Like, I mean, the birdcage thing was fine last season. I was okay with that. The little code words thing at the challenges, a little weirder. I don't know that I love that one. So of the options, I like this. I mean, it's not you're instantly handed an idol. You still got to do some stuff. And it's not like corny stuff like pretend to sneak through the tribe camp or whatever. Like trying to burn that candle essentially around a whole bunch of other people. Not super easy to do, right? Like you almost have to let someone else know, because otherwise someone's going to see that thing. It's going to stick out sitting near a fire. So right. I like it. I mean, it's a fun twist. And this one, I at least think like, well, if you're pitching this to me in a meeting and we're planning out a season of Survivor, I'm like, oh yeah, let's see how that goes. Like, I don't instantly see something that's like, oh, you idiots, this is going to be so bad, which I have about some previous twists in recent seasons. So yeah, I'm down to watch how this one works out. And it seems also like it's not standard across the board, right? That the different tribes are going to have to do different things, which I also think is going to be entertaining. That candle thing, still pretty wild though. The excitement of being like, yes, I got the idol down. And then like you specifically have to burn it. You can't just like whittle that shit away. Like, I mean, it's very funny that they don't have fire, but like, really, you have to do it the one way. You can't let them be, not that they even have a machete to whittle it away, but still,
right.
Come on, let them be resourceful. Even then, not the only change this week. They also noted in the challenge, they changed the puzzle. Jeff like hung a lantern on the fact that they actually changed the puzzle. Like, do you feel heard? Because I know I do.
Yeah, I think it's about time. I think we needed this for a while. I'm hopeful that we're going to see more new puzzles as we sort of move along in the season. And this wasn't just like they burned all of their puzzle making juice on just the one like pre-merge challenge that we're going to get.
That would be very funny.
That would be very funny. But it also makes me wonder, because unless I'm getting my production timeline backwards, was this season the first one that they filmed in the summer, or did this follow 44? I'm trying to think this through.
See, I was confused too, because I initially thought it was immediately following 44, but then I don't think everyone would have known Bruce. I don't think that's possible.
That's true. That is true. So then I guess they had like the whole off season to figure out these puzzles. But I think that would have been funnier if this was immediately following 44 and they had all these new puzzles in their back pocket, save them, and then watch Carson absolutely blitz through on puzzles because he 3D printed all the ones that they decided to use for that.
It would be pretty funny. But yeah, I'm glad that Jeff seemed to be like into the fact that Carson had studied these puzzles last season. But as we mentioned, like at a certain point, it's less entertaining to watch someone plow through a puzzle just because they essentially like got to prep in ways that others didn't, and then be kind of unfair. You know, I don't care a ton about the fairness of this game, but in specific ways I do. And that just seemed to me to be unbalanced.
I would agree. I also think it comes down to, if you want to watch someone be good at something, I want to watch someone actually be good at puzzles. And part of that is solving a puzzle that is new and novel to you. If you've 3D printed the puzzles ahead of time, I don't actually know that you're any good at puzzles. You're good at this specific puzzle and running this specific algorithm, right? Which
you're good at rote memorization.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't actually impress me all that much. I guess it, to some level, impresses me that you're that dedicated to 3D print all of these and get all of these committed to memory. But in terms of like actual performance, I don't know that that's really what that is showcasing.
All right. And then last thing on the advantage subject before we move on. But obviously 3 people went out to Advantage Island or whatever the fuck they want to call it this season. What do you think would have happened if Sabia went out there and risked her vote? Would she even be allowed to try? Because she'd already lost it at that point. What's the point? Can she just roll the dice and be like, oh, I'm good? You think they penalize her on a future vote as well?
I think they would have penalized her on a future vote as well, because that seems, if I'm just putting on my productions lens, is more of an entertaining gameplay factor to maneuver of, now you cannot vote for 2 tribals in a row. How are you going to navigate this? I don't think they would ever stop a player from putting themselves in the worst position strictly on sort of like gameplay options.
I mean, I think it'd be kind of funny if she had gone. She doesn't have her idol, so she's got her vote lost, which is lost until she gets the idol, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so then she could never get the idol. Then she hits the merge, at which point she finally gets her vote back. And yet, no, she doesn't, because she's lost it again. And so she could potentially go as deep in the game as possible, never having voted. Well, I guess the first 2 weeks she could have. But you could set up a very hilarious situation where someone goes on Survivor and essentially just never gets the vote.
Right. Which, I mean, that's also kind of the irony of her having her idol encased in wax, is that when she doesn't have her vote, she is in more need of her idol because she has less power. Yes. And because she cannot access that power, she's not able to vote. Exactly.
So anyway, that's probably enough about the advantages this week. I did think that was helpful for the episode. You know, at times advantages can like overwhelm an episode. In this case, it was a nice supplement. It was a good add. But let's move on, because we've talked about the Lulu tribe to death both last week and this. There's other tribes out there. So let's move on to the blue tribe. Below, I believe it is. I want your impressions of Bruce.
I don't think Bruce is going to be my favorite. At the same time, I will say I respect him for trying. He doesn't have as much self-awareness as I think he should, because all the things he's saying he's trying not to do, he is kind of still doing. But I do respect that he has enough self-awareness to know that those will be issues for him, specifically like bossing people around, being too much of a dad. So I think there may be some of the raw tools for him to sort of maybe be successful in navigating this tribe. But in terms of personality, at the moment, I'm like, take it or leave it, kind of whatever. If he grows as a player or as a character, then I am open to changing my opinion on that.
It's funny because it's sort of like the Emily thing, where like she's made aware of certain things about her personality that, oh, maybe you should try to hide those things or change those things. And I think just like Emily, so will it go for Bruce, that you're not going to be able to keep those things shoved down deep inside you for very long. Phrasing. So, I mean, I think Bruce is really trying to play up this like persona as he's like this goofy, wacky guy. And I mean, I guess that works on a certain type of person. Like my kids were like, oh, hi, he's very funny. Also Jake, who has, I guess, the sense of humor of like a, third grader. Jake was like, he's so funny. He makes funny noises. Like, really? That's killer material, man. Like grown ass man doing the robot and playing peekaboo. Okay. If that's what does it for you, Jake. But overall, I found like the more I got of Bruce, the less interested I was. There is, I guess, room for that to improve. Like maybe the thing is, if he gets more comically bad, I might be back in. I might want to watch him be fantastically bad at Survivor. That is a thing I enjoy. But this level, nah, it's not it. It reads way too much. Watch me be a TV persona type, and that grates my nerves.
But like you said, I don't think he's going to be able to keep that cover and suppress his real personality for too long. I think the dad Bruce is going to overtake the Uncle Bruce. And I think he is going to start to be more of a dominant personality, which maybe it's not necessarily better than the version that we're getting now. But I will say I agree insofar as I think his real personality is going to come out sooner rather than later.
And did you feel like he should have gone for that advantage or not in that situation?
I personally respect the decision not to, for two reasons, which is one, he knows his strengths and his weaknesses. He was very clear, like, I'm not the puzzle guy. You're telling me this is puzzles? Like, this ain't it. I'm, not for me. So I can respect that from that perspective. But I also, even absent that context, I would say that I respect the decision insofar as he knows his position in the tribe. I think he kind of senses that he isn't necessarily in a majority alliance, as far as you can even tell what a majority alliance is, right? Like if you're on a tribe who has never voted at all, like they haven't gone to tribal yet, you don't actually know if you can trust these people, right? Like voting together is the number one thing that builds trust between you and your tribe mates. And given that that has not happened, I don't think it's safe to assume that you have any level of safety, right? To the point that you can risk your vote going into your first tribal. So for all of those factors combined, I understand why he wouldn't have gone for the advantage. It's working out for some people. I think it's working out for Drew. Obviously, he got his advantage. I think it's working out for Sabia, right? Because she is not voting, but it doesn't even have her idol yet. She has this really tight connection with the people who she's working with to the point that she sort of has that level of safety. But as far as Bruce's situation, I don't think this necessarily would have worked out for him had he gone for it.
Yep. You hit on roughly the thing that I thought when I saw him refusing. I was like, yeah, the chips have not fallen yet, right? You can have all these talks about like, oh, I'm so tight with such and such player and we're good and we've got a group of 4, we're going to be fine. There hasn't been a vote yet. You don't know how that thing's going down. And, in losing your vote in such a small group it matters a lot, especially if others have lost their vote. There was a vote with 3 votes in this week's episode. Like, are you going to give up 1/3 of the voting power? I mean, to me, it was a pretty high risk, and I would have understood if he went for it just to have the Survivor experience. But realistically, you don't need to. And honestly, if he ended up with a safety without power, that's a pretty shitty advantage anyway. Sure,
right, and that's part of the thing of you're not even getting full idols. I feel like that's a known quantity at this point, that when you go out to on that journey to that island, you get in that boat, you're not coming back with a full idol. You're coming back with some sort of advantage, which is not nothing, but it's you don't even know what the advantage is even going to be. So it's really hard to do any sort of level of risk analysis when you don't know what the reward that you're going to get is.
And I think the types of things that you could get from there, if it's a second vote, I guess could potentially be useful for the same scenario that I just mentioned. Like if other people are losing their votes, then yeah, you having even more votes is going to matter a lot. But I don't know. An idol is certainly worth taking a risk for. The other sorts of things that we are aware that you could get on those sorts of Advantage Islands things, I don't know if it's worth the risk, especially if you haven't yet seen where the alliances lie in your tribe. That said, Drew went for it. Did you like that decision?
I mean, if I use the same sort of lens and calculus I used for Bruce, Drew is very, very confident in his abilities, and he is very sure that everyone at home knows how confident he is in his abilities. And if you're that confident, take the swing.
Once upon a time, Chris Noble was that confident in his abilities, and it was much better. I miss that guy. So like the epitome of a 50-50 coin flip, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to nail it. Like the absolute confidence. And this is why I think, someone like Drew just pales in comparison for me, because it's like, you're all act. Like Chris Noble genuinely assumes he's going to win coin flips. Like it's that sort of bravado and confidence that I want to see. Not this like, oh, look at me, I'm the smartest person ever played. No, you don't fucking believe that. Maybe you do, but if you do, you're an idiot.
I think part of that is the packaging though, of, like for Chris Noble, it fits a character, right?
Yes.
That is entertaining, right? For Drew, the way that fits into his character is just the guy who's a smug, smarmy Ivy League douchebag who everyone like. No one likes that persona, right? So to lean further into it just grates you more.
So quickly back to Bruce. If you trust the confessionals, seems to have gotten at least some sort of foothold with the rest of his tribe. Jake finds him hilarious. But there was also some other dynamics happening on that blue tribe because, in the first episode, we got wind of the possibility of there being the 3 women allying and taking out one of the men at the first opportunity. This week, that got to play out a little bit more, and we got to see that there's 2 swing votes in the middle. Are you liking the Brando and Kelly tandem that's sitting right there in the middle?
Yes, I think the 2 characters who I actually like the most on that tribe, for as much as we've seen them, because we really haven't seen them that much, are Brando and Kelly. Originally, when they sort of showed Brando trying to play the middle, that quote rang in my head of the person who tries to play the middle gets run over. But knowing that he's going to work that middle ground with Kelly and they're going to work together on that, I think puts both of them in a better position, because I really don't see any scenario where Kendra and Katura are working with Bruce and Jake.
Right. Yeah, I think the fact that it's the 2 of them makes playing the middle a little safer, because really that all that means is that you're going to decide the tribe power dynamics, right? Based on who you side with. And I'm with you in that I feel like I kind of liked Brando a little bit, again, small sample size to choose from here. Like he seemed okay. Kelly seemed aggressively average, like just powerfully fine. There was nothing about Kelly that jumped out at me. That said, I'm still not into Miss Astrology, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Kendra.
Okay, there you go, Kendra. You had just said it too, and it still escaped me. And Jake, no thanks. So, it's really others are lowering the bar so that Brando and Kelly can clear it, but that's fine.
Well, I will say, though, I do like Katura just on sort of her juxtaposition between her public vibe with the rest of her tribe mates and her confessional vibe, where the moment she can be by herself, she's just shit talking pretty much all of them, which I enjoy. Like she spent, how long do you think that confessional was unedited of her complaining about Bruce?
Oh, that went on for a while, because there was a litany of complaints there, and they just picked the highlights.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like why I like Katura, because that is exactly my vibe. It's very friendly to your face, and as soon as we're not in the same room, I'm shit talking you nonstop. It's very my vibe.
Yeah, of that tribe, she also seems fine. Honestly, of all the tribes, she seems fairly competent, which is odd given some of the people that we've seen so far. Although really it's probably just we've been oversaturated with that yellow tribe where the incompetence was just rampant. So, anyone playing a baseline level of Survivor, I'm like, oh, you're good at this game. But it remains to be seen. We'll see once they actually get to vote at a tribal council.
And I will also say, is if no one ends up being a superstar player this season, that will be somewhat disappointing. But as long as they're roughly on the same level, I feel like it all balances out. When you have these seasons where it's like one person is just dominating the entire game, it can be exciting to watch that one person. But overall, in terms of the overall season, it doesn't always make for a great season. Like when you think about I'm like Kim Spradlin, right? Like excellent game player, and because she was so dominant on everyone around her, like the season wasn't ultimately that good. Right. Even though she's a great winner.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that here because it doesn't look like anyone is far and away more talented than the other players. I'm trying to think of like a season where the talent level was just everybody's fine. Maybe it was 43. That's the problem. I think certainly from an entertainment perspective, 43 was just as average as can be across the board, and it really suffered for it. As far as gameplay, maybe not true though. Nothing else is jumping to mind. All right. So then let's finally talk about the Red Tribe, who we barely referenced last week, justifiably, other than me complaining about Drew, hey, let's start with that shit. Drew did some things this week. People seem to talk to him. What's going on there? Are they wrong? I feel like they're wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where, to get back to what I was saying about Katura, of different vibes for your tribe mates in confessional, I can't get a read on to what degree he's playing up the whole smug, smarmy, douchebag thing just to camera in confessional, and how much of that gets out sort of among his tribe mates. Because if you don't see that aspect of him, I guess I can kind of see how you might build a connection and alliance with him. But even with that said, just with him being that part absent and the rest of it being neutral, I personally don't really see the appeal.
Yeah, I think for me too, it's going to take a lot to turn me around after I cringed so hard at his first confessional last week that I feel like I damaged a vertebrae. It was like a full body, oh shit, what are we watching?
You should not have made that noise. They're going to clip you for that noise. They are gonna. You got to be more careful on the mic. It's like D and her feet. You're just putting stuff out there on the internet.
Oh no. This is an episode of After Dark Purple Rock Podcast. The Drew, I don't know. I guess there can be a recovery, right? I've had times where a first impression of people was I don't know. But then they've grown on me, Carolyn last season, I think I don't think I was out on Carolyn right away, but it definitely took some time before I was man, I'm into seeing more Carolyn on my TV. I don't feel like that's going to happen here. I just don't see the upside that's going to make me you know what? I was wrong about Drew. I am on board now. I don't see it there.
Right. And I think the difference there is that Carolyn was lovable, right? And I think that even though I'm trying to keep her in mind now when I sort of get to experience these new castmates for the first time, right? Keep an open mind, because my first impression of Carolyn was not that great, but obviously did turn around by the end. But the key thing is that she was a positive presence. She was lovable, and I don't know. I don't really see any sort of inroads with Drew on that.
Right. Let's talk about some other people in the Red Tribe. Again, not to keep shitting on them, but Sifu had a watch me punch this tree. How old is this man?
I want Sifu off my TV. He just grates me to no end. Literally, this is a podcast. This is not a visual medium, but when he did this sort of this triangle hand gesture sort of deal, on the first episode, I'm no, he needs to go. I'm over it. Honestly, this is the other thing that I don't think y'all talked about last week, and maybe I should Google to confirm this. Let me get on my phone. I am pretty sure he's taking the name Sifu because he calls himself a Taekwondo master, But the reason that grates me is I'm pretty sure that's the name of a character out of Kung Fu Panda. So let me just give me a moment.
I mean,
but it's like
still Kung Fu, it counts.
No, well, but that's the thing of when your real name is Nicholas.
Is that his real name?
Oh yeah, his real name is Nicholas. So that's the thing of like not to throw on the phrase "my culture is not your costume," but like it's just, if you're going to go on national TV, I don't know. We just really got to pull it together. Like just think about how you're being perceived. Master Shifu, Dustin Hoffman. So,
Dustin Hoffman. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, again, talk about costumes. Yeah. I don't know. I'm with you in that, like, genuinely, not even my children would do the, oh, watch me punch this tree thing. Like, you're a grown ass man. Also, I genuinely did not realize that was not his real name. Although, better than Tarzan.
Is it? I'm not convinced that that's true.
Well, because at least, I don't know, you might be right. It's still pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Like,
but that's also the thing of like when they introduced him in the first episode, and I think people were throwing around the comps of like, oh, he's crazy just like Tony. I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like player comps, you don't need a player comp for every single person. Like, let's not draw the comparison because it's not fair to Tony. This guy's getting lumped in with him just because he's doing barrel rolls out in the jungle, right? Like, if anything, compare him to who's the firefighter from last season?
Oh yeah, Danny,
right? Like, let's start there. And if he ramps up to Tony level, then maybe we can, if the comparison is apt and justified, we can use it. But don't go Tony right out the gate. That was the same thing with Austin and Drew when they were like, oh man, I wanted, a JT to my Steven.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Who said you were Steven? Who said you were Steven?
No.
Like pump the brakes. You got to earn some of these comparisons.
There can only be one. And I mean,
right.
Steven, my true survivor love. One of the few reasons that I actually miss Twitter is interacting with Steven and making fun of him and occasionally flirting with him to just, keep him on his feet. Hey, speaking of feet, let's talk about D. Is there anything else to discuss about D other than we got to talk about her feet this week?
I will say I do. She's another one who I kind of like her vibe, and maybe that's just me trying to read vibes. I know I said that about Kelly, and you were like, Kelly's just average. I feel like Dee kind of has decent vibes. Julie, I'm just rooting for just as sort of like the underdog mom. And then Austin, I like for reasons. But the three of them being in alliance together, I'm rooting for them. I hope that they can do some good work together. The fact that Drew is lumped in that alliance, not so excited about. But, if the three of them sort of go far, I will not be mad about it.
Yeah. I mean, and if they ditch Drew for like J Maya, who I feel like lends you that same intellectual capacity, but also is not grating my nerves yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I'm in on that alliance.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though is I keep forgetting that J Maya is on that tribe / like is the person on this season, and maybe that's just because I haven't seen enough of her like in terms of airtime. But I literally was trying to run through the members of the Red Tribe, and I got the three guys, Dee and Julie, and I could not figure out who the last woman was on the tribe.
Well, and here's the reason why she was memorable to me, because I saw all those letters on the tribe sign, I should say half letters on the tribe sign. And probably because, as you know, I am an obsessive like word game player. My thought was like, yeah, I would have done exactly what she did. Go up and try to decode, because it's probably going to be, halves of letters and you could figure out most of them. So although, having seen the actual clue, they made that A, that was a stretch to make it an A. So if you had just seen that, you'd been like, oh, that's not that letter, and you could have gotten it wrong. However, yeah, I would have absolutely been up there trying to figure it out with the clear idea that like they're going to insert a bunch of letters that are essentially spaces. So you'd have to figure out, like, pick out the real words amidst the like gobbledygook stuff. And the fact that she was trying that, I was like, yeah, this is my vibe. This is the sort of thing I would do. So that's why she was memorable to me. But also, she looped in Drew with that conversation, which, again, you're losing points with me now. Like, you'd gain some for trying the word game. You're losing points for looping in Drew.
And I think that is just like Drew is giving more evidence for you just got to be in the room. You just got to be a part of the conversation, and people will just
Yeah.
feed you information and bring you along.
I mean, and again, he came back from that Advantage Island, tells them all about his advantage, honestly, and it worked. They like seemed super receptive. Austin's like, this guy's he's playing it straight and which he actually was.
Mhm.
And then Drew's like, we'll share this, which probably you could because it's kind of worthless.
Right. And I think that's actually part of the reason why he showed them to begin with, which, like, I will say the reason I think it went over so well is because he actually produced the parchment and showed the advantage. I think in the past, either you said, I lost the challenge, whoops, lost my vote, or you were like, oh, there was no challenge at all, and you gave some different story. Or even if you said that you won an advantage but never showed it, right? Like all of those things have baked in layers of deception that are easily clockable.
Yep.
And then cause people to not trust you. So when Drew says, here's my advantage, here's what it does, here you can read the parchment, right? Like it literally is all of his cards are on the table, right?
Yeah.
Which then engenders trust.
Right. That was probably the right move in that scenario. Just again,
Right.
because from my point of view, that advantage is so weak that you may as well just share it with everybody, right? Like the only downside would be that they might be thinking like, oh, you risked your vote. Like we needed your vote. And I mean, you can always play that off as like, man, I'm out here. I wanted to take risks and whatever.
Right. But I think it's also because the advantage is so weak that he was willing to share it. Right. Like if it was a more powerful advantage that you actually should be keeping to yourself, then you don't tell these people about it. But if it's something that you're like, honestly, I don't even know if I would ever really have a use for it, then, there's no downside to just sharing it with the tribe because you're going to win more of an advantage by having closer allies, by engendering that trust than ever anything you would get off of this advantage. But I will also say, I feel like the weakness of the advantage, to tie back to the Bruce conversation, should be more evidence that you should not participate in those little journeys and, optional challenges until Survivor demonstrates that you're going to get a better reward out of those things. Because if you're risking your vote, like if you knew that this was the advantage that you were going to win, I don't think anyone should be risking their vote for this.
Right, because not only are you risking your vote, you can't use your shot in the dark, which is, again, not a very powerful advantage, but you can't use it at all if you've lost your vote. So, it's like a double whammy there. All right, I think we've wrapped up the Red Tribe. Anyone else you wanted to discuss there?
Nope.
All right, so quick aside, Andy and I last week, we did play Guess the Secret Canadian. Would you like to guess the Secret Canadian?
So I am actually looking at a cast photo now because I need to see their faces to see who gives off Canadian vibes. Like, I think you guys said this last week, there's no accents that are noticeable.
Right.
So it is hard to just judge this on voice. And then I forgot, do we know the number of Canadians or is that also?
So I stumbled upon one. I was unfortunately, like while I was setting up the fantasy league, I saw one and it was the only time that I saw someone's like location they were from. And I was like, damn it, really? So it's possible that there is more than one, but there is at least one.
And you said last week, you said that was Brando, right?
That was my guess.
Oh, got it. Okay, well, I will say Brando kind of gives off Canadian vibes. I will say Jay Maya, I think, gives off a few Canadian vibes. For some reason, Caleb is sort of giving me like from Toronto, but it's plugged into American culture, potentially. But I think if I'm going to go for one that I don't think has been mentioned yet, I'm going to say Sean, for the reason being that his job is a principal, and for an American principal, I just think he's too young. And maybe he's the principal of like a charter that just got started. But I'm just based on maybe they do things differently in Canada, or maybe just because, if you live out in the middle of nowhere, there's only so many educators you can find to begin with to attend the one school in like a 1 hour radius.
You're just saying if you live in Canada, you live out in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, unless you're living in Vancouver, Toronto, you kind of are.
We're gonna get Montreal. So much hate mail. It's gonna be great. All the Canadians. It's gonna be the most polite hate mail, though. Like, hey, you didn't have to say that about our country. All right, so looking forward to next week. Do you see Lulu's fortunes improving at all?
Oh God, no.
Okay, so we're going right back to them losing again next week. You think?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And Emily, if they lose?
So that's that's what I think they should do. But given the next time on Survivor, apparently that's not a given. So that just made me wonder the fact that like she's even being looped in. I think it was it Sabio saying that she might want to target Caleb. I think is what it might have been in the preview. Yeah. I am wondering if Emily has already solidified as a GOAT. Pretty much like she has such negative vibes that everyone just like she's already a GOAT, so there's no point in cutting her, right? If these people really are sort of thinking ahead to the end game, because I think some of them already are, then maybe they're like, if I can just make a close ally with Emily, right? If we can survive this merger, I think it's the wrong calculus because if you keep Emily around, there's not a guarantee that you will. I think she actually is the weakest challenge competitor of the 4 that are remaining. But if that is your calculus, I could see why maybe you do want to keep her around, even though I don't agree with that.
If you're thinking right now of Emily as a GOAT at the end, you are thinking way too far ahead. Like, especially on that Lulu tribe, they have not generally been doing swaps with these groups. You have to assume until there's evidence otherwise that this is the tribe you're riding with until you get to the fake merge. No.
I agree, but I also don't. I don't understand then why all these people are roping her in on their plans, right? Like when Caleb went to Emily to try to like make an ally there. Like I guess I kind of get it in that there's no downside to having her as an ally, just in case you do need to work with her. But at the same time, I'm like, bro, this ain't it. Like,
right?
Pick a different ally. You have 2 good ones. Yeah. I don't know why you need to pivot here.
Right. You don't need to be allied with the entire tribe. All right. Anything else to cover about this episode or this cast?
Just, it's sort of replacement level Survivor at the moment. I'm hoping we don't take a turn for the worse. I am cautiously optimistic that things could get better. And, we'll just see how it rolls.
Yeah, good for you. I don't know that I've obtained optimism just yet. I'm definitely in a wait and see mode. So that said, if you want to find our site, it is at purplerockpodcast.com. Fantasy League drafting is closed. So if you didn't pick your team, too fucking bad. Come try it again next season. We got 200 plus once again in that Fantasy League. And then also, we're not really doing the social media stuff anymore. I think Andy's on Blue Sky. Do you want to reveal who's behind our Twitter at the moment?
We actually, there was a tweet basically saying, like, it was either last episode or this episode. The account used the words "mother," "unserious," "stan." I think if the people are that invested in knowing who's tweeting, they can use that to figure out who's behind the account.
Good point. It honestly could be anybody. I hear that there's just constant appropriation of cultural slang going on. Anyway, that said, if you want to find us and interact with a very lovely community, it is purplerockpodcast.com. We have a comment post that goes up every week during the episode. You can talk about it during and after. And then, I'm making some forays back into the comment section. I've been busy for the past few seasons, but I'm back in there. So you can interact with me. And I am John on there. It's a very standout name. You will easily spot me. And anything else for you, Brad?
Nope.
You want to plug anything?
I technically guess I should be plugging the socials, but I don't know if I really want to.
Nope.
Save yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I said, Andy's on Blue Sky. Maybe when he comes back, he can discuss that. But that said, hit the theme music.
This is the copyright free